It's that time again. Another chapter, in with the new and out with the old. Fortnite's removed a number of weapons, many of which some consider to be integral parts of past seasons. There are a lot that we miss, and others, well, we'll just say they can stay in the past, and I'm pretty sure the majority of us would be pretty okay with that. And as such, we've ranked our top 10 from worst to best just for you. Hopefully the items towards the bottom of the list, Epic may consider bringing back at some point. We can only hope. Well, hope and use code T5G in the item shop to support future videos for good luck. That is. No, but seriously, check out the skins in the item shop. Come on. Onto the list. Number 10, the minigun. Miniguns were probably one of the least used weapons in Fortnite I've ever seen, with pretty much everyone choosing to leave it on the ground rather than walk around with one. And then if you did decide to pick one up, you'd be shotgunned before you even started firing the thing because it would take forever to start spinning. The minigun was added to Fortnite during Season 2 and was okay until Season 7 when Epic added an overheat function to the gun, making it pretty terrible. Sure, it was still good for weakening buildings and putting pressure, but with the overheat function and the time it took to start up, it just wasn't worth even putting in your inventory. By the time Fortnite Chapter 2 came around with that damn black hole, the minigun was removed, along with pretty much every other weapon in the entire game apart from a select few. But in at number 9, we've got the silenced pistol. The silenced pistol was a pretty average weapon that was really only useful when you just landed and had nothing else to use, easily getting destroyed by anybody who could even manage to scrounge up a white tac shotgun. It was added back in Season 2 right after the addition of the boogie bomb and has remained in the game ever since, not being vaulted once until its eventual removal with Chapter 2. The silenced pistol was a pretty good weapon right off the bat where you could spam the trigger and get a ton of damage dealt to someone. But if they had the full shield, then it was a pretty average weapon. The silenced pistol, when used against pretty much anything else, was always going to lose a fight, depending on the range. While it was alright at times, the weapon wasn't exactly the best or the most useful. As a result, I'm surprised it wasn't removed from the game sooner. I know a lot of players will miss it though. If you do, let us know why in the comments section below. But in number 8, the automatic sniper. Of all the versions of sniper rifle, the automatic sniper rifle was probably the most useless. It was a gun with a scope that could shoot bullets way further than a regular assault rifle, but way slower than one too. But also because of this, it meant that the damage the gun dealt really wasn't enough for a sniper rifle. Usually when you go to snipe someone in Fortnite, you want to get them down in one shot because then they can't try to just run away. If you take someone down to low health, they would have already run away by the time you reloaded, and then the next thing you know, you're having a sniper battle with them. With the automatic sniper rifle, it took quite a few shots to actually eliminate the enemy, so it was pretty useless. Even midway through Season 10, the same season it was introduced in, Epic gave the gun a buff, and that made a few more people use it in modes like Team Rumble. But it was still a pretty average, but nothing too amazing weapon. It was vaulted like literally everything else in Chapter 2. And in at number 7, the Infantry Rifle. Oh boy, the Infantry Rifle. This thing was just so terrible for the longest time. When it was first added in Season 7, it was that awful common, uncommon, and rare version. It had ridiculous bullet drop, absolutely no bloom, and you needed to be an actual god at aiming to hit anyone. And the recoil, well, we'll just say it was horrible. I don't think a single person liked using the Infantry Rifle in Season 7, but then came Season 8. Halfway through the 8th season, after adjusting the Infantry Rifle 4 times, Epic Game went and added the Epic and Legendary variants. These brand new variants were used by a ton of pro players to try and shoot people out of the sky when gliding, or when they wanted to get some easy hits on people from far away who didn't have a sniper. They weren't that bad, but the original Infantry Rifle is still one of the worst things I've ever used in Fortnite. It's just awful. All versions of the guns were vaulted with Chapter 2, just like everything else in his list, except for Fred. Number 6, heavy sniper. The heavy sniper. Everyone's favorite out of all the snipers in Fortnite. And man, was there a lot of snipers in Fortnite. There was way too many back in the previous season, but if I could choose one to keep or bring back, it would almost definitely have to be the heavy sniper. It did incredible damage, but the reload time made up for it, as well as the ridiculously loud sound it made. This weapon could tear down walls, break off heads, or you could barrel stuff with it and get an easy kill when you're standing a foot away because of luck. And it was a monster, but you actually had to be good, so it wasn't that overpowered. A lot of players will agree that the heavy sniper was one of the best snipers. Let's be honest, it was vaulted with patch version 11, which was for Chapter 2. And at number 5, we've got the suppressed SMG. The suppressed SMG was added to Fortnite with the Day 1 patch, which added Battle Royale into the game and made it public for the whole world to play for free. Now, the suppressed SMG is essentially a version of the TAC SMG where nothing really works. It's been in the game since Day 1, and then it was vaulted in Season 6. It's an SMG, so it's going to be in the middle of the list, but in Season 7, the suppressed SMG returned to replace the regular SMG. Unfortunately, the burst SMG came around in Season 9. The suppressed SMG was then vaulted as a result, but there was hope because midway through Season 9, the rare version of the tactical assault rifle from John Wick crossover got vaulted, which brought back the suppressed SMG once again. It doesn't end there though, because it was vaulted with Chapter 2, so much for all that, replaced by the regular SMG once again. What a shame. But in number 4, we got the heavy AR, the AK, the heavy assault rifle. This one used quite a lot during matches. It wasn't quite anything like a SCAR or an SMG, but it did the job well. And a lot of players used this to try and pick people out of the sky. The fire rate was slow, but the damage was high, which meant you could take out an enemy really easily if your aim was on point, which a lot of pro players were. Not to mention the fact that it is an AK-47, the most famous weapon of all time. The heavy assault rifle was added in Season 6 as a way to get a slow fire rate gun into the meta that would also be really powerful. At the time of it being added, it was the most powerful assault rifle in the entire game, at least the legendary version was. Unfortunately, however, they ended up removing the legendary version and nerfed the weapon heavily until it began to be used less and less. It was eventually vaulted in Chapter 2. But moving down the list, we've got number 3, the suppressed AR, the SCAR. You knew it was coming, it's the SCAR, at least one version of it. The suppressed assault rifle was pretty much just a regular legendary or epic assault rifle, but with a silencer on the end. This thing was super OP because not only did it have the power and accuracy of the SCAR, but it was deadly silent. You had no idea these heavy slugs were dealing so much damage or where these shots were coming from other than where the bullets hit you. And by then, you're already out or extremely low. Being snuck up on with a SCAR is not ideal. It was added in Season 5 and then vaulted in Season 9 because it was too overpowered and there were too many suppressed weapons in the meta. Came back for a few weeks in Season 10, then of course it was vaulted with Chapter 2. How many damn weapons are going to be taken by Chapter 2? It's a disaster. There's only like 8 weapons left, but and at your number 2 spot, we've got the hand cannon, the Deagle. The hand cannon is by far one of the best guns to have been removed since Chapter 2, which I'm sure many players, are, myself included, are upset about. For both sniping, close range, and destroying builds, it was an all-in-one tool, with its only problem really being the fire rate and recoil, but man was it overpowered sometimes. Despite the fact that you couldn't exactly do crazy elevator jumps like in COD 4, in Fortnite, there were many times in the meta where the hand cannon could take down wooden builds with one shot and get easy dubs. And then they nerfed it and buffed it and messed with it a lot until eventually it was removed in Chapter 2. After the nerf, it wasn't used as much as it originally was when it could take out builds insanely well and do a ton of damage. Was this because they wanted to tailor more to players that had a harder time aiming because of how powerful the weapon is for the people that could aim? McCree mains, where you at? We'll leave that for you to decide, but honorable mention number 1 is going to be the revolver. Speaking of McCree, the revolver has been on quite the journey since it was added into Fortnite on Day 1 of Battle Royale's launch. It's an honorable mention for now because it isn't exactly a good weapon like at all. In fact, it's not even a decent weapon. It was terrible. But this thing was in the game since Day 1 and no one used it, so we're using this honorable mention spot to press F to pay respects. It was vaulted in Season 5, but brought back in Season 9 and accompanied by some ultra cool Hollywood reboot versions of the revolver that were epic and legendary. Even though they did more damage and had a faster reload time, they still weren't really worth picking up if you found one on the floor because they were outshined by every single other weapon in the game. We're here to pay our respects to the revolvers. They were vaulted in Chapter 2 along with everything else. Honorable mention number 2 is the Flint Knock Pistol. The Flint Knock Pistol, do you remember this one? What an absolute fun weapon this was. It was super fun to use, especially when you could shoot the ground to get a jump boost to get on high areas if you had no mats. My high ground now, was it? Or how about we just jetpack through people's structures? Balance, where we're headed, we don't need any of that. I use this thing all the time because not only did it do massive damage per hit, but it launched both the enemy and you backwards so you couldn't get shotgun. After Season 8 ended and Season 9 vaulted pretty much everything that was pirate themed, the Flint Knock Pistol was one of the only things left from the pirate era of Fortnite and was one of the most fun things left too. It was really hard to aim with it because of how off the bullet was, but man, there is a difference between a fun weapon and a strong weapon. You could have both, but a fun weapon is something like a Flint Knock. It was vaulted in Chapter 2, but man, I know I'll miss it. Looks like it's back to the sweaty builds, lads. Back to the drawing board. Number 1, Tactical SMG. In the number 1 spot for the absolute best weapon that was removed from Fortnite, we've got the Tactical SMG. Probably one of the saddest vaultings to come from Chapter 2. This little thing was an absolute devil in the battlefield. If you haven't used the tactical SMG in Fortnite, you're probably missing out, but at the same time, being on the receiving end of the thing, it's probably the equivalent of, well, it was in the game all the way from Season 1 to Season 5 until it was eventually vaulted and then replaced with the boring old regular SMG. It was gone for a long time until its grand return in Season 10, and then the teaser in the Season 10 trailer that hinted at a legendary variant of the gun. That sneaky little variant showed up near the end of the season in Starry Suburbs, and Jeebus was it overpowered. It was insane. It would just destroy people, but I think Epic might have just made it overpowered on purpose because they knew Chapter 2 was right around the corner and it would be gone regardless. Legendary or not though, we still miss all versions of the tactical SMG as it was quite the powerful weapon in any situation. It really did bring the spray and pray meta to light, but that probably isn't a good thing now that I think about it. Oh well, let's just hope we see all these weapons returning to the game in the future because the game is quite dense right now. Now if only there was some kind of code that we could use when purchasing in-game cosmetics. Now that would be something. Code T5G. Hey, there's an annotation on the screen right now. Do you see it? Oh, it's getting away. You got 3 seconds to click that annotation. 3, 2, 1. You're still here. You think this is a joke?